In this video, I put together all of my past videos on solo pricing to create one full series on pricing for solo cruisers, covering solo prices and comparisons for Virgin, NCL, MSC, and Carnival. You can watch the complete series, or if you've seen a vlog before, I have included chapters so you can skip around as needed. And stay tuned for updates in the future. Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Cheryl, also known as SIGCruiser, that's solo, introvert, and gluten-free cruiser. In this video, I'm taking a look at pricing options for solos on Norwegian Cruise Line. Last year, NCL announced that they were expanding solo cabins around their fleet. Previously, they only had studio cabins on certain ships, but now they have expanded their accommodations by adding 1,000 cabins across their fleet. So they now not only have the solo studio cabin, but solo interiors, solo ocean views, and solo balconies. But are these the best value for solo cruisers? Let's take a look at that. Now, to check this out, I selected a 5-day sailing on the Norwegian Breakaway for November 19th through the 24th. There are 3 cabins that we're going to look into, and that's the solo studio, the solo interior, and the inside cabin at double occupancy for a solo. Now, if we start with the studio, we see a base price of $762. Now, this is the cruise rate without the taxes and fees added. For the newly added solo interior cabins, we have a cruise rate of $702. Yes, this is a lower rate, but that's not the full story. We'll get into that at the end of this video. The inside cabin has a double occupancy rate of $804 for the solo cruiser. Now, before we go into the final pricing of these cabins, let's look at the difference between cabins, because sometimes you can find value, in the differences between the cabins. First, we're going to assume the free at sea for all cabins, so we're going to take that off the table for options. Now, the solo studio is only for one cruiser, and the size of the cabin can range from 97 square feet to 131 square feet. Our newly added solo inside is more spacious at 135 to 150 square feet. And the inside cabin has a total approximate size of 129 to 201 square feet. Now, some of the sizes overlap a little. Technically, you can have a solo inside that's a little bit bigger than an inside cabin at double occupancy, but I would say it's probably not enough overlap to make a noticeable huge difference between the cabins. Now, I didn't have a chance to review the actual cabins, but this may be something you want to check into. The newly added solo cabins are in a specific location, so it will be interesting to see if these cabins are in locations that maybe are less desirable. I'm not saying that's what's occurring, but it would be interesting to see where these cabins are, if they're above or below, any places that have noise, or if they're like for the ocean view and balcony, are they obstructed? I'm not sure, so that's something to look into for another time. Now, getting back to our pricing options, now let's look at the final pricing. The final price with taxes, port fees, and our free at sea gratuities. Yeah, that free at sea is really not free, but that's another vlog again. For our 5-day cruise on the Norwegian Breakaway is $1,222.05. Our solo inside is $1,162.05, and the inside cabin at double occupancy, well, that's $1,263.80. Now, let's put all this information together to see it in one shot. First, here was the size difference between our interior cabins. Basically, a range of 100 to 200 square feet. Next, our price differences. Here, the solo inside is the lowest price, coming in lower than the solo studio, which is a smaller cabin. What's most interesting is the difference from double occupancy. because a lot of people who look for solo cabins expect them to be a lot cheaper than a regular cabin at double occupancy. But here, our solo inside cabin is a mere $101.75 cheaper than a solo cruiser booking the inside cabin at double occupancy. And the studio cabin is only $41.75 cheaper than double occupancy. So booking the solo inside cabin will be an approximate 10% savings from booking a regular cabin at double occupancy, and about half of that savings for the solo studio cabin. So technically, the solo cabins are cheaper, but not by much. So the question is, would $50 to $100 difference in the cruise price make a difference in whether you're able to sail alone? Now, but does this mean that solo cruise cabins are of lesser value? Not necessarily. If you're a solo cruiser who looks to connect with other cruisers on the cruise ship, now let's remember, at least on NCL, they have that solo cruise lounge. And from what I hear, they have a host who arranges activities around the ships or sets up dinners. So you have someone that's facilitating solo meetups. Now, if that's important to you, you can consider it as NCL adding value rather than removing the single supplement and putting you in a smaller room. But if you're a solo cruiser like me who doesn't necessarily seek out others on the ship to connect with, and you're not likely to hang out in the solo lounge, well then you're looking at maybe 5 to 10% off a regular room at double occupancy. Now it's up to you to determine whether you find value in that 5 to 10% discount. Now, one thing to note, this is only one sailing. Prices fluctuate up and down all the time. Prices vary from ship to ship, from sailing to sailing. Plus, there are sales out there that Norwegian does from time to time, so prices may vary. My point here is to show you that you really have to dig into the details. Just because it's a solo cabin doesn't mean it's the most affordable or will provide the best value for you. Take the time to price it out, or work with a travel agent who can dig into these details and find the best value for you. Now, I hope you found this valuable. If you did, please hit the thumbs up on this video. And thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, bye-bye. I am continuing my series of checking out cabin pricing for solo cruisers across the various cruise lines. And today I am going to look at Virgin Voyages. But stay tuned, because not only am I going to look into their pricing for solo cruisers, but also I'm going to do a comparison to NCL. They both have programs that cater to solo cruisers, so which one has the better value for solo cruisers? Let's find out. Today I am going to look at Virgin Voyages, and just like last week, to keep it simple and to keep it moving, I took screenshots that I'm going to share with you to walk through the pricing process and also to do the comparison. So let's get started. Now, as we did last week, the first thing that we want to do is to look at the current promotions that are being offered. By considering the current promotions, you can get a better feel of the fairness of the pricing. If there's a certain percentage given off for the second sailor, does the solo cruiser see that value as well? That's one reason why we look at the current promotion. And here we see with Virgin Voyages, they're promoting up to 80% off of second sailor. Now for this comparison, I'm going to pick a date that's in 2025, so that will increase our chances of having solo cabins available. So we're going to consider a sailing on the Valiant Lady, a 4-day sailing leaving from Miami going to Key West and Bimini, and this is going to be August 20th through the 24th of 2025. The first cabin that we're going to check out is the solo cabin. So Virgin has what they call the Solo Insider. It's 105 square feet, so we're going to start with that cabin. Now, if we go through the pricing, the rate for that cabin is $1,219. Now, the one thing that I found really exceptional about Virgin and their booking process is that it is clear, transparent, and very simple. There's only like 3 clicks to actually book a cruise on their site. So next, when we select our cabin, the next thing is they total out our cruise and give us our final price. They add in the port fees of $190. That comes to a final price of $1,409. Quick, simple, and easy. Now let's take a look at what the equivalent of that would be if we wanted to look at an inside cabin, but a regular inside cabin. So our regular inside cabin, if we price that for a solo, our rate is going to be $1,818. Again, adding on the port fees, and that comes to a total of $2,008. Now, what's great about the Virgin Voyages rate is that the gratuities and Wi-Fi is included. So our final cruise rate is the actual final cruise rate. So looking at the Insider and comparing that to the Solo Insider, well, the difference is going to be $599. Now, I don't know about you, but I consider that a significant difference where I would see value in taking the solo cabin. Still, let's take a look at double occupancy with 2 cruisers in the cabin. How much would that cabin cost? So now with 2 people in the cabin, the rate is still the same, $1,818. Of course, the port fee, there's going to be a difference in port fees because you're adding on port fees and taxes for that second person. Still, your Wi-Fi and gratuities are included, so that comes to $2,202. So basically, for a solo in an insider room, you are paying double occupancy. The only difference is you're not paying that second set of port fees and taxes. However, the difference between double occupancy and the solo insider, well, that's $793. So that's a significant difference. Now, let's take a look at a similar sailing on Norwegian and see what the differences are within cabins on Norwegian and then comparing it to Virgin Voyage. We're going to start off exactly the same way, looking at their promotions. Now, just like on our Virgin Voyages, the promotion on this sailing was 70% off of Second Sailor. And it happens to be the same thing for Norwegian for our price comparison. So let's just go through this quickly. So for a solo inside cabin, now this is not the studio cabin, but the solo inside cabin, it has a rate of $849 per person. And you add in the port fees of $238. Now NCL has a free at sea program, but you still have to pay the gratuities of the specialty dining that's included and the drinks. So the specialty dining gratuities are $11.80, and the drinks, well, that's $87.20. Now, what they don't show you, and what I couldn't find, at least on the consumer side, was where you can add in gratuities, because unlike Virgin, gratuities are not included, and you're going to add those on. So I'm a travel agent, so I went to the travel agent side to see what those gratuities were. So it was actually $80. So the price that I was able to see on the consumer side was not the actual final price that's comparable to Virgin, because we have to add in the gratuities. So adding in the gratuities, that changes the price to $1,266 for the cruise. We're going to do a final comparison, but right now we're going to roll quickly into, okay, if I want to get a regular inside room, but only as a solo cruiser, how much would that be? So for the Insider, with our promotion, with our free at sea, our cruise rate is $898.30. So ours are the same, $238. Again, our gratuities, we're going to go ahead and add those in, $80. Specialty dining, $11.80, and our drinks, $87.20. So our total for staying in a regular cabin, but just one person, is $1,315. Now let's do the same thing that we did with Virgin, looking at the total price for an Insider as a solo cruiser and comparing that to the solo cabin price. Now the difference between a regular cabin and a solo Insider on Norwegian is $49. Remember, this difference was $600 on Virgin. There was a $600 difference between a regular cabin and a solo Insider cabin. But on Virgin, yeah, $49. You save $49 by going into a smaller cabin. Now, what's the price of the cabin for 2 people that's staying in that cabin? Well, we're just gonna cut right to the chase. Well, they are paying $466 more because they're paying double the price of the gratuities on the specialty dining and the drinks and the port fees and taxes. So let's put this all together, and I put a spreadsheet together, and I hope it's not overwhelming, but I think it's easier to see the differences when everything is side by side. So here again, like I said, this is our Solo Insider. We have our total is $1,409. If we wanted to move to a Solo Inside, that's $2,008 total. And our difference between the Solo Inside and the regular interior cabin is going to be $599. And to me, I think that's the biggest difference. For Norwegian, we're paying $1,266 for the Solo Insider, the 100 square foot Solo Insider. The Insider cabin, if I want to book that as Solo, that's going to be $1,315. The difference between the regular inside cabin and the Solo Inside cabin is $49. Now, I think there are some things that you have to consider. They both have a hosted Solo Cruiser program. It does sound like NCL's Solo Insider program may be a little bit more extensive, so if that's important to you, then that may bring value to their pricing for you. For Virgin, I have experienced Virgin, and I would say their dining, and I'm not talking about the food, but just the dining experience. It's a little more upscale than NCL. NCL, they promote freestyle dining, so it's more casual, where on Virgin, you're gonna get that restaurant style, and they don't have a buffet. Even their dining experience outside of the restaurants, whereas on NCL, other ships, you're gonna have the buffet. Well, Virgin has a galley, which I actually prefer. So it's very nice to where you can order from different eating venues and they bring the food to your table. A great experience. Of course, on Virgin, it's all adults. So no kids on the ship. So if you're looking for that all adult experience, that's going to add value for you. Now, unlike NCL, well, the drinks are not included. So if you want drinks, you have to purchase what they call a bar tab. You can purchase a certain amount of bar tab to spend for drinks around the ship and even at their beach club. Now, considerations for NCL. Well, first of all, if you use Wi-Fi, I know they have free at sea and Wi-Fi is included, but it is not unlimited Wi-Fi. So if Wi-Fi is important to you and if you use premium Wi-Fi, well, you're probably gonna have to purchase additional Wi-Fi. Also, the dining. For solo cruisers, if you get that solo cabin, it doesn't include specialty dining every single night. So there is a limit to the dining, there's a limit to the Wi-Fi. And for Norwegian, also, the free drinks, it's not unlimited free drinks as far as you can get anything. So they do have a limit to that as well. Now, they do have the excursions, which is not included, but it is a $50 credit. So it's not any excursion what you want to do, but they do have that $50 credit. So if that's important to you, that may be something that brings value to you. Now, which one is best? Which one has the better value? As I always say, that's going to depend on you. Now, I will tell you what's best for me, but first, I'm gonna tell you who do I think it's best for. So Virgin, I would think that's best for people who are not drinkers. So they're not gonna be concerned about the free drinks that the Free at Sea program gives. And Virgin, it's best for those if they want that all adult experience. If they want an all-adult cruise, well, that's going to be Virgin Voyages. If they want a more upscale dining experience, both in the dining room and your casual dining, well, that's going to be Virgin Voyages. And I do think if you're looking for the best value for solo pricing compared to the other cabins at double occupancy, well, to me, that is Virgin Voyages. When I see that difference of I can have this solo cabin, but it's going to take $600 more if I want the equivalent at double occupancy, whereas on Norwegian, just 50 bucks more and I can have a regular cabin, then that tells me that I'm getting a better value for a solo cabin with Virgin Voyages. Now, for NCL, that's probably going to be more valuable for you if you really need a hosted solo cruiser program from beginning to end, someone to arrange dinners or to arrange activities for solo cruisers every day. If you're reliant on the solo cruiser program to meet others on the ship, then you may find that valuable on NCL. And if you just want a standard cruising experience, now Virgin, you really have to be open-minded. Their cruising experience is a little different. It's not outrageous at all. I've sailed Virgin. It's not outrageous, but it is a different experience, which I enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to sailing with them again. However, if you're not into the extra, you don't want any extra, you just want a normal standard cruise, then NCL may be the one for you. Now, with all of this information, who do I think has the better value for solo cruisers? For me personally, I think Virgin Voyages has the best value for the solo cruising experience for me. And the reason that I say that, again, that difference in cabin pricing, that's number one for me. I can't spend an extra $50 and get a regular room like I can on NCL. The solo cruiser program is nice, but I personally don't find value in that. And that's not what I'm looking for when I go solo cruising. So it's a big part of NCL, but that's not important to me. I love the fact that it's an all-adult cruise line. And the thing that I like most, especially with going through this exercise, is how quick and easy their booking process is and how transparent their pricing is. What you see is what you get. You don't have to dig around to add gratuities and find that, you know, there's going to be something added on later. They're upfront. In my experience, there wasn't any nickel and diming or adding on here and there. Same with any cruise. If you want excursions, yes, you have to buy that. The free Wi-Fi, I just thought it was a better booking experience and it provides better value for me. So which one is the better value to you? So drop a note in the comments and let me know which one do you think offers the most value. Now, I hope you found this information valuable. Now, if you did, please hit that thumbs up and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye. I can't cruise because I can't afford to pay double the price. What cruises have no single supplement so I can sail solo? These are just a couple of the statements and questions I get about solo cruising, but is this really true? Is paying double occupancy significantly more? Is no single supplement more affordable? Let's find out. Today, I want to take a look at the no single supplement pricing versus double occupancy. Now, I'm presenting this series to encourage those who want to try solo cruising, but either think the cost is too high because they have to pay double, or for those who believe that solo cabins always offer the best value or are the most affordable options for solo cruisers. Now today we're going to quickly revisit pricing for solo cabins on Virgin NCL, and then we're going to use those to compare to similar sailings at double occupancy, with adding in Wi-Fi, gratuities, and drinks. Okay, let's get started. Now for these comparisons, I selected 5-day Caribbean sailings in October of 2025. Now I do have one exception to this, but we'll get into that later. Now first we'll look at Virgin. Now for Virgin, we selected this Mayan Soul cruise. It's 5 nights on the Valiant Lady. Now we have several options here, but we're first going to look at the Solo Insider, but we're also going to look at the Insider at double occupancy as well. Now, as we see, the Insider cabins, they start at $14.95. Now, if there are cabins available, that's likely going to be our Solo Insider. So we do have that available, and when we price it out, again, I'm going quickly through these because we have a lot to compare. So as we price that out, we see a total of $16.96 for a Solo Insider cabin. And we did price out the Insider cabin at double occupancy for a Solo, and that is $2,424. Now let's quickly jump into our NCL sailings. So for our NCL sailing, we're going to look at a 5-day on the Norwegian Getaway. And this is also in October of 2025. So we're going to look at first the Solo Studio cabin. And as we price this out, again, just going right through and pricing it out, we have a total of $1,172.62. However, as we said before, the gratuities aren't included, so we're going to add on the gratuities just to make it a fair comparison across the board. So our gratuities happen to be $100 for this sailing. So our total is $1,272.62. Now don't worry, because just like last week, I put all of this together in one single spreadsheet so that we can look at everything side by side and make an easy comparison. Now just quickly jumping right into pricing, a regular insider cabin at double occupancy for a solo cruiser, that total with gratuities is going to be $1,472.17. So in this case, there's a difference of $201 between the Solo Studio and a regular inside cabin at double occupancy on NCL. But we're going to use both the Virgin and NCL cabin pricing as a comparison against double occupancy. So let's take a look at that now. Now for our double occupancy, we're going to look at first Carnival sailings. So we'll select a sailing and let's do this 5-day sailing on the Carnival Sunrise. That looks like a nice one. That one's going to Grand Turk, Half Moon Key, and Celebration Key. So let's check that one out. Now for the cabins, we're going to look at both the upper lower and the inside cabin at double occupancy for a solo cruiser. Carnival does not have official solo cabins. They do recommend the upper lower for solo travelers, but still 2 people can book in that cabin. So when we price out the upper lower and we add in the gratuities, our total is $1,069, and that is at double occupancy. So same for the inside cabin. If we price that out, add in the gratuities, and our total is $1,229. So when we add in the gratuities and Wi-Fi, our upper lower cabin is $1,089. And our inside cabin, if we add in our gratuities and Wi-Fi, the price is $1,129. Now, if you are a drinker, and because NCL has the free at sea, let's take a look at adding in the drinks as well. So if we add in the drinks package for our solo cruiser, that brings our upper lower cabin to $1,443, and our inside cabin is $1,483. Now hold on for just a second, because I know that's a lot of numbers, but before we sum everything up, let's take a look at MSC. So MSC gets a little tricky because I couldn't find a 5-day Caribbean sailing in October of 2025. So I took a look at this 7-day sailing, but I did a little something to try to make it a fair comparison. But first, let's go through the pricing. Now, MSC offers both a cruise only and drinks and Wi-Fi included package. So we're actually going to look at both of these. So the cruise only, if we look at that, it's $1,172, but we still have to add in our gratuities. And adding in gratuities of $112, plus we're adding in the Wi-Fi as well, and that is $213. So our final price comes to $1,497. But on that MSC cabin, if we do the drinks and Wi-Fi package instead, then our final price comes to $1,824. Now, because this is a 7-day sailing, that's really not a good comparison against the other cruise lines that we're doing. So what I did was kind of finagle it a little bit. I took the total price, broke it down to price per day, and then multiplied that by 5 sailing days. Now, no, this is not how cruise line pricing works. It can be a different price per day, per types of sailings, when it sails. A lot of things can factor into the pricing, so this is not one for one. So this is actually just for comparison purposes only. I'm not saying this is how the pricing works. So just for the sake of this comparison, we're going to look at price per day times 5 days just to compare it to the other cruise lines. And with that, we get a total of $1,069 for double occupancy of the inside cabin for a solo cruiser, and that's with Wi-Fi only. But if we drop the Wi-Fi and add the drinks and Wi-Fi package, then it comes to $1,303. So now we're going to put this all on the spreadsheet and look at it all together and do our final comparison. So here was our Virgin Voyages total for our Solo Insider at $1,696. If we wanted to get a regular Insider at double occupancy rate for our Solo Cruiser, well, that's going to be $2,424. And then we went over to NCL. The Solo Studio was $1,271, and an inside cabin was $1,472. Now we want to compare those just to see what the differences are for booking a cabin at double occupancy for a Solo Cruiser on Carnival and MSC. So if we want to make as close of a one-to-one comparison as we can, we're looking at this bottom line here, because this line includes our gratuities, our drinks, and our Wi-Fi. So if we add those in for an upper lower, that's going to be $1,443 on Carnival. And for a regular inside room, that's $1,483. But look how close that is to NCL. So this is double occupancy, especially the Solo Studio cabin. Now for the Solo Studio cabin, let's take our upper lower at $1,443 and look at the difference between the Solo Studio cabin at $1,271. Well, that's a difference of $172. So $172. Now, is that a significant difference that would keep you from solo cruising at double occupancy for nearly the same cruise itinerary at the same time? Now we're looking at pricing only. There may be other factors for you selecting your cruise, the ship, the cruise line, the atmosphere. But right now, for the sake of comparison, we're just looking at pricing. Now, better yet, if we go over here to MSC, and again, this is only an estimate because we don't have an actual 5-day cruise for MSC in the Caribbean around this time. If we were to estimate, we would have a total price with gratuities and Wi-Fi and drinks included as $1,303. And looking at that difference from our Solo Studio cabin, well, that's a difference of $32. And hopefully $32 would not keep you from sailing solo at a double occupancy rate. And also, if you look at this MSC at $1,300, well, that's for a full size, a regular cabin. So by saving $32, you would move into a smaller cabin. Again, all other factors aside. So what's our final conclusion? Our final conclusion, we have a $212 difference from the highest to the lowest price of double occupancy versus the solo cabins. Our Carnival double occupancy rate is $211 higher than NCL, and our MSC double occupancy rate, well, that's $169 lower than NCL. But if you want to save $32, you can book the Solo Studio cabin, the much smaller Solo Studio cabin on NCL. Double occupancy pricing can be the same or slightly lower or higher than solo cabin pricing. So bottom line, just what I'm trying to share here is that no single supplement or double occupancy, consider those just words. The price can be the same, the price can be higher or lower on either end. So here are my tips for finding the best pricing for your solo cruise. Number one, don't focus on single supplement or double occupancy. Focus on the dollars. Number two, first, determine what amenities you want in a cruise experience. Are you a drinker? Do you want Wi-Fi? Or do you want to unplug and disconnect on a cruise? Don't pay for these if these are things that you will not use or enjoy. Next, determine your price range that you want to pay for your cruise experience. And this will be a good time to also determine your budget for your extras, your excursions, your transportation, just to make sure that you're covering everything that you need to cover. And number four, now that you have your price range, search cruise lines and cruises that fall within your price range and choose the best options for you, whether it's double occupancy or a solo cabin, because these are likely to be nearly the same price or in the same neighborhood. Now that's barring a group cruise, a cruise line promotion, travel agent promotions, etc. If it's just a regular booking, they're probably going to be in the same neighborhood. So tell me, what are your thoughts about this comparison? And what are your thoughts about double occupancy versus a single solo supplement versus a solo cabin? Drop a note in the comments and let me know. Well, that's all I have, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I hope you will hit that thumbs up on the way out. Until the next time, bye-bye. This is a common question that I get all of the time. Does Carnival have solo cabins for solo cruisers? Yes and no. So today I am going to show you what Carnival considers a solo cabin or a single person cabin and walk you through how to locate them and how to book them. So to get started, we'll look for a cruise that has an upper lower room that's available. So more than likely that's a room that's years out. So we will let's look for dates. I'm gonna pick my birthday in 2026. So we'll do that. And just to narrow it down, I am going to sail we'll pick Miami, and let's do a short cruise. So we will say a 4-day sailing. And I'm also going to select one guest. So we have, let's look for a good one. Let's say I want to go to Celebration Key. So I'm going to pick the Sunrise here for 4 days. The Bahamas from Miami, Florida, going to Half Moon Key and Celebration Key. That sounds like a great cruise. We will choose Thursday through Monday, February 12th through 16th. So we're going to start booking here. We want one room because we're going solo. We're going to select our state and we are going to continue. Now, looks like they have upper lowers available. So this is what I wanted to show. First of all, that their upper lowers, it features one twin bed and either an upper Pullman or a sofa bed. So this one, like, you will have a twin bed and a sofa bed here, or sometimes depending on the room, there will be a twin bed and then an upper bed that you pull down. This is an interior. They have interior upper lowers that are portholes, and I've stayed in one of these as well. So the same thing, it can have one twin bed and either an upper Pullman or a sofa bed as well. Now Carnival has even started to say, hey, these are great for single cruisers. They don't call them solo cabins because you can book 2 people into these cabins, but they are acknowledging them as single person cabins. All right, so let's select a cabin to book. We'll start with this first promo, Early Bonus Saver Sale. So we select it and we see that we have cabins available in the back and forward of the ship. Here we see there are cabins available on deck 1. Let's select that and we see one upper lower cabin interior available in the aft of the ship. So let's go back again and let's see what's available for the porthole 1A cabins. So again, we'll select this promo and we see there are only cabins available in the forward, but we see that they're available on deck 1 and deck 2. So if we go into deck 2, we see that the portholes are available in the forward of the ship. These forward cabins are porthole cabins, 1A porthole cabins. And if we go to deck 1, we see we have a few that are available there as well. Let's go back and let's select another sailing. So I'm going to select February 26th, that sailing, to see what's available there. So for our interior upper lower 1A cabins, again, we'll go into this promo to see what's available. Again, aft and forward cabins are available. And here, see, they have some on deck 2 and deck 6, the upper deck. So the 1A cabin interiors are available throughout the ship, but you have to book them early. You will see them in this location on various decks of the ship if you book them early enough. So if we select one, And here is our booking. So this is for a forward cabin on deck 6, a forward 1A cabin on deck 6, and this is our final pricing for that cabin with $100 deposit. But guys, this room, if you're a solo cruiser, I highly recommend. I mean, unless you just don't want to be on a lower deck or something. But the room, I mean, it's the size of a regular room, but it has a twin bed. And like I said, for the price, I could not beat it. For $402 on a 4-day cruise, this is the cheapest that I have ever paid on a 4-day cruise. So if you're looking for solo cabin options on Carnival Cruise Line, consider the 1A cabins, either interior throughout the ship or the portholes if you want some extra light in the room on decks 1 and 2. So Carnival does recommend these rooms for singles and not for couples because they don't have beds that you can put together. So they are twin beds, the same twin bed that you would have if you were sharing the cabin with another person. The 1A interior cabins are actually located throughout the ship on different decks. You just have to find them and book them early because like other ships with solo cabins, there aren't many of them, so you have to book early if you want to secure one. The 1A portholes, however, are on the lower decks, so you'll find those on lower decks 1 and 2 and either in the forward or aft of the ship. I have booked the 1A cabin quite a few times. I booked one of the interiors once when it was on sale because in the past I have been able to find that interior 1A on sale to where it's the lowest price and there was no solo supplement. So it was at single occupancy price. It wasn't at double occupancy price. So I was able to catch it on sale for the price of one person in the cabin only and not at double occupancy. So that's something that you have to watch out for as well. And I like the 1A cabins because they're not solo cabins like on Virgin or the Solo Studios on Norwegian where it's a compact room. These rooms are normal size cabins. They weren't built to be solo cabins. They consider them like bunk cabins. So they are regular size cabin rooms. Plenty of space, plenty of rooms in the cabin. Again, some of them have sofas in the cabin. So they're a nice space. You're not cramped. It's not compact. It's a normal size room. So that's why I like the 1A cabins and consider it a solo cabin option on Carnival Cruise Line. Hey, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit the like button. Feel free to drop a comment below. And I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. If you found this helpful and would like more videos like these, consider joining my membership for exclusive content or early access to content like this. All right, until the next time, bye-bye.